Welcome everyone to another video, and in this video we are going to be rating and reviewing some battles of viewer suggested teams. This first team was Frostless, Umbreon, and Obstagoon. I would say Umbreon and Obstagoon are not too common in the meta, though I think both of them are very strong. Both of them are weak to Medicham, so the concept of this team is that Frostless will act as the anti-fighter. Typically, the fighter is Medicham. Pretty much the only fighter is Medicham in an open Great League. This is around the Legend Elo range. I think like 3,030 or something like that. And then as well, Umbreon and Obstagoon are really hard checks to Trevenant, which does quite well versus Frostless. This team is pretty strong against Noctowl with no weaknesses, and Frostless does beat Noctowl in all even shields and is able to tank Shadow Ball from Noctowl. So I think I did 4 battles with this team. I think there's like 3 or 4 different teams. I think 4 teams in this stream that I did. If you want to check out my battles, are on twitch.tv/KingIV. So this first lead is Trevenant here. So I was intending to catch here. So actually what I should have done is I probably should have thrown the Avalanche, because as soon as I switched here, I realized that it was it's going to be a Bastion in the back, which is going to be extremely problematic for me to deal with. So I throw the cross chop here, and then I actually, as I was thinking of this, I lose track of the energy. I actually end up CMP tying against the Drapion. What I should have done here was counter down. Yeah, I made a huge mistake here, which is obviously my fault here. Puts me in a very bad spot at this point in time. They do decide to come back in with Trev, and I throw the Night Slash, and then I'm gonna go back into Frostless because I know that it's a Bastiodon, and I'm just gonna sack the Frostless. I'm not gonna shield this, and I decided to throw the Shadow Ball just in case they tried to catch. I wasn't going to reach 2 avalanches. So in case they caught there, I would lay the Shadow Ball onto the Bastion, but of course they end up shielding. So I would have been like 2 Powder Snow short of the second avalanche anyways. But I realize I'm in massive trouble. My opponent doesn't throw the best timing. They're allowing me to sneak a Snarl through, but I'm in pretty huge trouble. And I do have Dark Pulse on this. I would prefer to have Foul Play, but I am in very big trouble right now. They decide to come into the Bastion. I throw the Dark Pulse, but I need like a million Dark Pulses at this point in time to KO. So we're just gonna fast forward through this bit here. If I would have done this differently, I definitely had a chance to win this game. If I would have, for example, would have shielded and counter down, then I would have lots of energy for the Trevenant coming in. I would have taken both shields, and I probably had a small chance here. But honestly, even if I snarl down this Trev, I would need like 3 more Dark Pulses to KO. So I identified the team. It's a strong team by Caleb here. So I just TM'd in between, so I'm just gonna skip that part. As you can see, I'm at 3,033 Elo. I already won 1 game in Ultra League while I was waiting for viewer team suggestions, and that was the team that I hit Legend with in the Weather Cup team by. Okay, so obviously not a great lead here. I decided to switch, and they come into a Medicham. So Umbreon actually does okay against Medicham. It is a losing matchup, but they were a little bit slow to switch. They throw a good timing there, which is good for them. But the key to winning this 0 shield matchup is throwing 2 foul plays and then a last resort. Typically, most Medichams cannot survive the last resort, but they can survive the foul play. A little bit of lag there, but that's okay. Looks like it all caught up there. They throw the Ice Punch, and typically most Medichams like to counter down. But I go for the last resort here because they do survive the foul plays and the snarls afterwards. And this actually ends up KOing the Medicham. They can come back in Sableye and Shadow Claw down. But I'm in a very good spot right now. And they actually come into Registeel. At this point in time, I decide to just sack the Frostlass. Frostlass can survive the Zap Cannon. Obviously, if they have Flash Cannon, it would be pretty disastrous here, but most of them carry Flash Cannon, Focus Blast, and no debuff there is really huge for me. I go straight Shadow Ball. I'm going to be able to outpace to the second Shadow Ball. They decide to no shield. I'm going to bait because I think they realize they need to retain the Reggie. And even if they no shield, I would just counter down anyways. I decided to no shield at this point in time, just in case the Sableye came in and Shadow called me down. And at this point in time, I'm going to do 5, then throw the Night Slash. They do a really nice job at catching, but I'm going to throw the Night Slash anyways at this point in time. And I just need to save a shield for the Registeel. And they need 2 power gems to KO me. They get the bait off, which is a really good bait on their side. But this game's over, especially after the boost here. The boost actually really didn't matter, but it's obviously very helpful. I'm not going to shield because obviously they have a Focus Blast. Banked. They throw the power gem. I'm just going to throw right away. You can't bank a power gem and a foul play, so this is safe for me to throw. I don't need to double up or anything. And then I'm going to be able to counter down this Registeel pretty easily. Obviously, they're very weak to Obscune, which is not a super common Pokemon, but it worked out pretty nicely for me. Let's fast forward here. So I Frostlass into Charizard. I decide to try to catch the Blast Burn. Maybe I could have thrown the Avalanche. I was just too worried that they're going to try to catch. And they're farming up. I do get the Snarl sneak in, but that's okay. It's tough to here. I should have waited and then threw the foul play. I was convinced that they were going to bait here, and that they don't actually end up baiting, which is very bad for me. I know that they potentially can catch, so I'm not going to throw right away, and they decide to switch out into Lantern. I'm outside of Surf range. Throw the Shadow Ball, and they go for the Thunderbolt, the Surf here. They go for the Surf here, but unfortunately for them, the Shadow Ball actually just does barely KO, and they come into Abomasnow, which is obviously a very favorable matchup for Frostlass. I am quite low at this point in time, but my whole intention here is just to sack the Frostlass. I'm not going to shield, and unfortunately, I think they miscount here because I get the CMP tie, or they didn't realize Frostlass went CMP over Abomasnow, and I let this go. I'm in a really good spot at this point in time. The Charizard is within Night Slash range, so I'm not going to throw until I have enough energy for the Charizard. And and I throw the Night Slash right away. I want to be able to outpace. I don't want to even take a Dragon Claw, and the Night Slash is enough to take out the Shadow Charizard, and I am able to counter down the Abomasnow. So the team comp was pretty nice for me there. Obviously, misplay on my side, not throwing the foul play, or what I should have done was wait for the wing attack and then confirm that the Charizard's staying in and they're not going to try to catch, and then throw the foul play. That would have been probably the best move on my side. Obviously, it would have resulted in them farming up more and the Charizard coming out with more energy, which would have been problematic too, but it would have at least allowed me to grab a shield or put the Charizard at very low HP. So I'm going to speed it up here. And this was a crazy game here. Obviously, a disastrous lead. Charm Ninetales absolutely destroys this team. And I throw the bait. And this is okay. And I decide to try to catch the Psyshock if they're going to throw the Psyshock there, which they do not. And they come into Metacham. And again, this is a pretty problematic situation for me. I get the Snarl through. I'm not convinced this is a dynamic punch, so it's a pup. So I'm not too worried about shielding. I am able to get to the foul play. I was a little bit worried about not getting into this next foul play, so I decided to throw on alignment. I wasn't sure if I was going to survive the 2 counters afterwards, so that I could throw in better timing, which I don't end up surviving. And they don't throw right away, which actually works out a little bit better for me. And they decide to no shield, so that was actually very fortunate for me. And I decided to come Bassadon here, which actually worked out pretty nicely for me because that allowed me to get a few extra counters on the Bassadon, but more importantly, get to this Night Slash sooner. And then I actually end up boosting here, which actually worked out really beautifully for me because I actually would not have won this game without the boost, because I wouldn't have done enough damage on the Bassadon. Actually, I think I still would have had a small chance to win here without the boost. I would have taken one more charm, so it would have been really close, but it would have resulted in me having to try to catch. And I do 4. This is when they have the Stone Edge or Flamethrower. So if this didn't KO, I was going to switch, but it does KO because I get the boost. So even though it's triple weak to charm Alolan Ninetales, I was able to win the game there. So how would I rate this team? This team was fun to use, like 3 Pokemon that have like a lot of not like good coverage per se, not inherently weak to Trevenant or Noctowl, which are very common, or good coverage, like okay, neutral play against Lantern as well. Obviously, Frost is not that strong against it, but as you can see with the Energy Advantage, I was able to play against it. It is a little bit is very weak to Charm Ninetales and a little bit weak to a Bastion lead. So those would be certainly problematic situations. But this was a fun team, definitely one that you can utilize and climb effectively. But it does require you to potentially bait out the Medicham, which is really key there. And Umbreon, with the right play, can do quite well versus Medicham. So that's the first team here. That's actually where I got my Libre, and season 14 in the books. And this next team is Shadow Gliscor, Lantern, and Medicham. Medicham with the standard moveset, Ice Punch, and Psychic. So let's go ahead. This is a team suggested by Theme Taxis, one of my very good friends here, going against Zygomatic, a very strong competitor, and they are using a very spicy team of Whimsicott. This is an okay matchup for Gliscor that does deal super effective damage with the wing attacks, but unfortunately does not deal that much damage with the charge moves. This Earthquake would KO, so they do end up shielding, and I am going to shield. This Whimsicott should be dry at this point in time because they do end up throwing the Moonblast, and they come into Deoxys, and I'm in a very favorable situation here because I do resist the Rock Slide and Thunderbolt, so they will have to Psycho Boost, and as well I'm dealing super effective damage with the Night Slash. And they Psycho Boost, and I decide to switch out to Medicham, and Zico plays this correctly, going for the Thunderbolt. It actually does slightly more damage, like probably 1 HP more damage debuff than the Psycho Boost. And I know this Whimsicott is dry, so I'm actually just gonna, if they come in Whimsicott, I'm just gonna counter it down. It's very low, right? So I'm not confident that they will make it to a move, and they do not, and they decide to leave the matchup. And I have no idea what they have in the back, but very spicy team. I'm guessing Bassadon or Gfis. Otherwise, they wouldn't have necessarily stayed in that matchup. And as well, they're weak to Noctowl, so they need a Steel answer to cover for the Noctowl answer, and potential Poison, but Poison's not too common in the meta right now. So I'm gonna speed it up here. So we have Ninetales here, which is obviously very bad for me. And maybe here I should have baited. So I go to 10 and then throw the Earthquake. Presumably good timing. This EQ would KO. But they shield. Obviously very bad for me. I'm not able to survive and get the Night Slash off. but not that that would have made a huge difference because I would have to throw the surf anyways. They actually go for the weather ball as opposed to the Psyshock, but maybe they had something else here. I don't throw there mostly because I know that they potentially could CMP time me. So I'm gonna do 4 and then throw. I do miss a bubble there, but it's gonna KO anyways. And they do come in Umbreon. I should have banked the Thunderbolt and then played it out. Then switched. So here they do end up throwing again. Timing on switching in is really tough for the opponent. So I end up getting a free counter in. Then these free counters end up really paying off for me. So I throw the Psychic, and I do 4, then throw. Keep track of the energy. And I'm in a very good spot here. I'm going to shield. Again, I'd rather take out this, well, I don't know here, actually. Maybe I should have just taken out the Azumarill with the Medicham, because the Thunderbolt energy would have been better for the Umbreon. But I was super fortunate here. I decided to throw the Surf right away, which is not the best timing. I end up giving an extra turn, but I really need to make sure I got it off. I do think this opponent maybe was a little bit too aggressive on the farm down, because it does allow me to get to the Surf, which does much more damage. And they as well give me a free counter there. And then I do 1 and throw the Ice Punch. And honestly, if they went last resort here as opposed to the foul play, I probably would have lost the game. And they give me another free move here because they're afraid I have back-to-back Ice Punches, which I don't. Yeah, I think if they would have, and I end up CMP tying them there. So I guess double last resort was like their play there, and they would have had enough energy for it, or don't give me the free counter. But they had to give me the free. The thing is, like, they gave me the free counter because they're already at 100 energy, right? So they would just want to throw the energy. And if I do 1 counter, then throw the move, then they had to give me the free turn anyway. So it makes sense on the first one. The second one, it doesn't make as much sense because I guess they were worried about how much energy you have. But again, fortunate situation for me after running into a very tough lead there. They could also just went straight Umbreon into my Lantern as soon as it came in. But they would, if I would have switched there, then it would have been really problematic for them. But going against Rise, again, one of my friends, one of the best battlers in the world, pick up a very good lead. I know he's potentially going to try to catch, so I don't switch. I don't throw right away. They come to double, and I decide to throw the Psychic because he does allow me to get here. He actually ends up shielding, which is a nice play by him. And but I know I win this matchup, so I'm not too worried, and I'm not overly weak to Deoxys anyways. And double actually does pretty okay against Gliscor, so it wouldn't be the reason why he stayed in. So I actually do end up getting the Ice Punch off. He obviously let me get the free counter in, but he obviously wasn't expecting I was going to survive 1 HP. I do switch out right away because I know likely he's double weak to Gliscor, so no point in trying to get farmed down. And if I have to deal with the Deoxys later with Lantern, then that's totally fine. I can do that. And I actually end up getting the boost, which is super nice. I do expect the first one to be a Psycho Boost. And he's throwing back to back. This is a double debuff, so I'm not going to shield. But we'll see what's in the back. If it's a Trev, I'm definitely in trouble. It ends up being Diggersby. I just noticed that as a quick attack, and then I kind of lose track of energy. So I bait, and I definitely could have made it to the EQ. But I was trying to catch here. I don't know for what reason. So obviously I'm in huge trouble here because he does already have the Fire Punch, and I'm not boosted anymore. But 1 EQ does not KO Diggersby. It also doesn't have Mud Shot, so it's not dealing super effective damage with the fast moves. And I throw the Surf. I am expecting a catch, so I don't throw right away. And then he comes into Deoxys. And again, that's a 50-50 call on his side. Because if he would just thrown the fire, maybe I would survive the fire punch. It would have been really close there. But a very good game. Obviously, Gliscor was a very tough lead for him to deal with. We're going to fast forward here and we run Obstagoon into Gliscor. This is a favorable matchup for Gliscor in the 0 shield. It's kind of baity in the 2. It does go 1 over, so I'm going to count to 4, then switch. And then maybe I should have caught on Lantern, but this is okay. Catches the Night Slash, and here comes Noctowl. This opponent throws the Sky Attack right away. In my opinion, they should farm up more because the Sky Attack doesn't KO, and this limits the amount of farm they can do. So I end up getting 2 more counters in. So they'll only get 2 more wing attacks. They could have came out with more energy and as well have less to farm with. I am going to shield the first one because I do expect this to be a Shadow Ball. I thought about throwing one beforehand, but I was too worried that they were going to try to predict that I was going to do that and then throw the Sky Attack on CMP and Noctowl win CMP. So I decided that it's better for me to come out with energy. And I throw the Thunderbolt. And I throw another Thunderbolt. They actually end up shielding this, which surprised me a little bit, but also makes sense. And I'm going to let this go. And I'm praying that I'm going to survive. And I switch here, expecting the counter swap. And I throw the EQ. I could have farmed a little bit more, but I'm already at 100 energy. And I go for the bait. I realized to go for the bait because I'm confident a Night Slash and a Surf is enough to KO the Lantern. So the only lose con for me was to get my EQ shielded. And the only reason why I shield, I know they have back-to-back Surfs at this point in time, right? The only reason I shield here is to get the 1 HP of wing attack damage from the wing attack coming through because I have a Surf banked. So I am going to throw the Surf here, and this just helps me ensure that I get the KO. I wasn't going to be able to get another Spark Elf anyway, so that in my mind, it gave me the best chance to win. But I was very confident I was going to win at that stage once I landed the EQ on the Obstagoon. And then we run into, obviously, a disastrous lead. And I come into Metacham right away and come met by Sableye, obviously extremely bad. And I really thought about this on how to play this. Because honestly, if I would have shielded the return here, I think they were like 1 over the return, then I would have potentially flip switch, but that's okay. And then I end up lagging here, so I actually have no idea how much energy they have. Yeah, so I have no idea how much energy they have, and so I decide to just take them out and pray that it's not double ghost. And I end up switching out, and they're staying in. So I'm actually expecting to be a GFIS. I'm not actually quite sure what to expect. They have Ice Beam, and they have Ice Beam Hydro Pump, I presume, or they single move Ice Beam. I'm not quite sure. And yeah, I'm not quite sure. Maybe they're convinced I'm going to shield. Again, I'm not quite sure what's happening here. And I'm expecting them to shield, which is why I go for the bait. They don't end up shielding, and they come into Skarmory. I do bait, expecting them to shield. They're at 3 right now. They end up farming up quite a bit, and I'm going to throw the Night Slash, hoping to boost. But either way, I'm going to put them pretty low because I'm going to be able to get off another Night Slash. Obviously, with good timing there, allowed me to get this move off. Put them very low. I was expecting them to throw right away there because they're already at a ton of energy. But I ended up getting the sneak through anyways, so it worked out fine. They end up sky attacking. I do expect them to Brave Bird at this point in time because really their only realistic win con. And I actually made a mistake here. I should just taken out the Zazu right away because the Skarmory was dry and I was going to be able to spark it down or outpace it. So really made no sense for me to try to gamble there. So what I think of this team, I think Shadow Gliscor is super strong in the meta. This team with Medicham Lantern is great. Obviously, Trevenant in the back, farming down my Lantern would be problematic. So you really have to bait out the Trevenant with Medicham and try to get some Ice Punch damage off, maybe overfarm a little bit to try to throw off their counts, maybe land the second Ice Punch. And obviously, Shadow Gliscor can't take a Shadow Ball that well from Trevenant, but this was a strong team. Ended up getting a 5-0, putting me at a pretty high elo range. I think I have one more team here. This is a kind of a spicier team here from Led Zepp, a Brazilian trainer who I met at LAIC. Really, really nice person, super strong trainer. They run it with Brave Bird. I ran it with Night Slash and Leaf Blade. It's obviously bad lead here, so I'm going to switch out into Sableye. And they do end up throwing the Seed Bomb. I'm not going to shield. I want to save shields for Shadow Charizard. And they come into Drapion, and I realize like it's going to be a Bastion in the back. As you can see, if you could see my screen here, or I'm looking at the stream, I'm like, oh, this is going to be Bastion. I should have baited there. They realize their timing here. So my whole game plan here at this point in time is like, I just need to get out and bait out the Bastiodon. Right? I'm going to sack the Charizard, bait out the Bastiodon, and hope to sweep with Surfetch. So I throw the return, hoping to flip switch, which I do not. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to just sack the Charizard here, hope to bait out the Bastiodon. They end up throwing the Aqua Tail, and they don't fall for my trap here, unfortunately. So I do wait the clock, and I'm in a very bad situation here. They come straight into Trev. This Night Slash is enough to take out the Trevenant. But honestly, I need a boost here. I need them to wait the clock, which they don't. And because they didn't wait the clock, they end up getting back in right away. But this is obviously a really terrible situation for me. So I switch out into Sableye, give myself a little bit more energy to Shadow Claw down. And I know it's a Bastion on the back, and there's not too much I can do. If I close combat, maybe. But unfortunately, I do not. Close combat, for sure, I would have won here because I would just need 2 counters here to get it. Yeah, and I would have survived the 1 Smackdown, which I did there. But that's okay. Hoping to boost here, but I do not. And I'm not able to get to the move there. So close. If I would have played it better there, potentially bait, realizing that they really need switch, then maybe I had a chance there. And they throw the Seed Bomb because the Drapion Sableye matchup is really iffy and obviously really bait and shield dependent. So this is a Zoomerol. As you can see here, really bad for my backline. This is a good lead for me. Win the 1 and 2 shield pretty easily. They throw on alignment, which is interesting here. It really doesn't make too much difference here because they go straight Ice Beam. So I'm going to do 4 and throw. This is right before they get to another Ice Beam. I am going to throw the Leaf Blade right away because they have the move. I thought about catching on Sableye, but that's okay. And they come into Lantern here, which is a very interesting pick. Unfortunately, I do have to stay because Lantern is very bad for Charizard. But the Surfetch is put in work. They throw after 8 there. 6, 9. So they are 4 at 4. And then I lag here. No, I got denied there, which is very unfortunate there. They throw the surf. They're going to be able to land another surf. But I'll survive this. If they would have went to the Thunderbolt, then I would have been a little bit more concerned. I do wait for the spark to make sure that they don't catch on like a Trevor or something, because I do need to return it. They're not quite in foul play range. And I switch out right away, and they have an Obstagoon. And Charizard wins that matchup in the Zero Shield pretty easily, even if they boost. And then I have Surfetch into Medicham. Obviously, very bad lead. I believe this is against the Utrecht winner. And I'm not convinced that they're going to throw Psychic at the Charizard. So I decide to no shield here. And they Ice Punch. I do Dragon Claw bait them. But that's okay. And I'm going to try a CMP tie on the... Is that CMP tie on the Ice Punch? I think so. And they decide to try to counter down and actually end up getting the Simul Feint. I'll take it. I'm like, oh, up a shield and 50-50 call on what's going to come in next. Like, I feel pretty good there. But they decide to leave the match. I'm assuming they had like G-Fist Reggie or something. If they had Bassalon, they would come into the Charizard. And but yeah, ended up working out pretty okay for me. Yeah, it ended up working out pretty okay for me. So obviously very surprised that I won like that. And we have Surfetch into Sableye. This is an okay matchup. I am going to try to throw on CMP die with the foul play. Not that they're going to throw the foul play. I throw the Leaf Blade. They end up shielding. And I'm praying that I survive the foul play. I'm like, oh, I really need to survive this foul play here so I get the move off. But I do not end up surviving. They're at 10 right now. I am getting denied here again, which is so terrible for me. So terrible. But I wasn't going to win this matchup anyways. And I was desync there as well. It's like, sometimes the state of the game is very frustrating here. And they have Walrein in the back, so... And then they end up having Bassalon in the back, which explains why they shielded so early. Because obviously my Surfetch would have went wild on this back line. And... But you'll see who actually does win this match in the end. Because I land the big return. Sableye is able to survive and land the return onto the Bassalon, doing about 5 HP worth of damage. So, not obviously, Sableye was pretty tough as a lead there, and getting denied there really hurt there. And this is a good lead here. I think I lose the 0, so I throw on CMP with presumably the Thunderbolt, but I do expect them to surf bait because they need 2 moves here. So I end up letting this go, expecting the bait, which they do end up baiting. Well, actually, no, honestly, the Thunderbolt they would have been able to spark down. They do catch on to Trevenant. Wasn't sure which way to go here, so I decided to come Charizard, and I decided to throw on CMP for the move there. They do have Surf banked, obviously. Decided to shield. And yeah, I'm convinced double Dragon Claw is enough to KO. They actually end up... I tried going for the Blast Burn. I don't know why I did that, but I miscounted there. I thought I would make it, but that's okay. I'm in a pretty good spot right now. And they come into Noctowl. I'm actually not quite sure why they stayed in Surfetch onto... yeah, I'm not sure why they stayed Surfetch in Lantern. And I'm in a pretty good spot. I do let this go. They throw a Sky Attack. The foul play is going to be enough to take out the Noctowl. And I have enough health to survive and make it to the foul play and take out this Lantern. So that worked out pretty nicely for me. Ended up winning with a shield. Not that I would have probably got sparked down before I made it to another move on Surfetch, so the shield didn't really matter here. So I'm going 3-2 with this team. Would I recommend this team for someone climbing? Probably not. Is it a fun team to use? I think Surfetch is always a really fun Pokemon to use. It's kind of weak to Noctowl. Two answers to Trev in the back. It is pretty nice against Lantern, Azu in the lead. Good against Bastiodon in the lead, but Bastiodon in the back is pretty tough to deal with since Sableye is a little bit glassy, and Charizard obviously taking double super effective damage from the smackdowns and not really doing that much damage to Bastiodon in return. But again, this is a fun team. So showed off a variety of different teams and Pokemon that my viewers suggested. I'm going to be doing quite a few viewer suggested battles for the rest of the season. I'm going to do some themes and some unique challenges, all that stuff. But let me know what you think of this video. If you like this video, for like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see everyone in the next video.